At the beginning of the film, a group of mafia led by Max is shown planning the murder of a man who owes a large debt to Frank but is unable to pay it. Brutally, Max beats the unfortunate man with a baseball bat until he is helpless. One of Max's men named Frank tries to stop the cruel act, but unfortunately, the man has already died and cannot be saved. It turns out that all these events are part of Frank's memories from the past. Currently, Frank is in prison, bearing all the punishment that should have been Max's responsibility. As compensation, Max has promised to give a large amount of money to Frank for willingly taking his place in prison. While behind bars, Frank suffers from acute insomnia that causes him to hallucinate frequently. The doctor who examines him gives him medication and advises Frank to try to sleep, even if forced, because his severe condition could lead to dementia. Slowly, Frank realizes that all the decisions he made in the past have made him lose many things, including precious time with his wife and child. After serving 19 years, Frank finally gets parole and rehabilitation services from a psychiatrist. On the night of his release, Frank exits the prison gate and enjoys the fresh air of the outside world he has long missed. Since there is no public transportation that night, he chooses to walk home. On the way, Frank meets a young man in a gray hoodie who is walking towards him. The young man turns out to be his biological child named Zoe. Their relationship still feels awkward because Frank has left Zoe since childhood. They then walk home together.
I figured you wouldn't be here.
Let me get that for you.
No, I can carry it. You look...
What, 19 years older than the last time you saw me?
Well, yeah.
The next day, Frank takes Zoe to their old house to retrieve something he had hidden long ago. In the backyard, Frank starts digging the ground and opens a large suitcase filled with stacks of money and the baseball bat that Max once used to kill his victim. After securing the money, Frank takes Zoe to stay in a luxury hotel and enjoy life together.
Look what I found.
Nice.
Unbelievable. That's still in amazing condition.
It is.
You and I are gonna live it up.
Phones and the microphone started taking care of my blues. Rhythm may have stopped its motion, but you can make it sound.
The hotel was once a place he promised to his wife but never got the chance to fulfill. Frank still holds a deep love for his late wife, who died of a severe illness.
Nice!
Zoe initially refuses to stay in the hotel after learning that the money used came from Max's bribe. But after Frank pleads for them to spend the rest of their lives together, Zoe finally relents. As they enjoy dinner together, Frank's gaze falls upon a woman in a blue dress sitting with two men, a figure that reminds him of his late wife and sparks his interest. Zoe then suggests Frank approach the woman because she works as a prostitute. Frank hesitates because he has never been with another woman besides his late wife. That night, while Zoe is asleep, Frank quietly leaves the hotel and goes to a weapons dealer to buy a rifle and ammunition, showing that he is preparing for revenge against Max and his group who ruined his life.
Got some mad recoil, you know. So you getting back in the racket again?
Just dropping in on some old friends.
Then, Frank visits a bar owned by his old friend, San Quentin, also known as Kay, a former mafia member who also once served under Max. Kay looks happy as his daughter is about to get married. When Frank asks about Max's whereabouts, Kay replies that Max died 6 years ago from a stroke. Frank then asks about two other mafia members, Tank and Jimmy Dragon, who were also present during the murder 19 years ago.
They're the ones that did it, right?
I'm out of that world.
But nobody's ever really out. I need you to answer me, Q.
That's where you're wrong, see, because I haven't seen them in 5-6 years.
You sure?
Yeah.
How about now?
Oh, wait.
Feeling that Kay is not being honest, Frank threatens him with a pistol, but Kay remains firm and only promises to help him find Dragon and Tank.
Look, Frank, I don't know where Jimmy and the Tank are, okay? But maybe I can help you figure out how to find them.
That's good enough for me.
The next morning, Frank returns to the hotel without Zoe's knowledge, who is out at the time, so he can hide his weapon. Soon after, Zoe arrives and reminds Frank of his promise to buy her a luxury sedan and expensive goods. They then go to a showroom to buy a white sedan and visit a luxury watch store. They enjoy time together as Frank had dreamed. While enjoying a burger in the car, a man approaches them and offers exclusive prostitution services, but Frank does not decide to accept it yet. Zoe then tries to convince her father to leave behind his dark past and start living a normal life. Frank half-heartedly agrees, although deep in his heart, the desire for revenge against Max and his two men still burns. As they are about to return to the room, Frank accidentally runs into the blue-dressed prostitute he saw the night before. Encouraged by Zoe, Frank musters up the courage to approach her. They talk, and Frank learns that her name is Simone. He then invites her for a walk to get some fresh air and tells her his life story. During the conversation, Frank hallucinates again and sees Simone as his late wife.
Let me get the door. It's a little tricky. Hey, we could do this again.
Okay.
They return to the hotel and promise to have dinner together again. The next night, Frank visits a salon where Dragon works. Realizing Frank's arrival, Dragon greets him with insults and says that Max is still alive. He then attacks Frank and quickly escapes. Their fight continues outside the salon, and just as Frank is about to shoot, Dragon has already fled. Frank returns to the hotel with a bruised face, making Zoe suspicious. She is disappointed to learn that her father is involved in violence again like in his past. Frank then reveals his desire to take revenge on Max for all the suffering he has endured. Although Zoe tries to stop him, Frank still leaves the hotel.
You said you were done with them. You said you weren't looking to get even.
Scores. I gotta go.
You walk out that door and I'm gone. That's it.
Soon after, Frank arrives at Tank's butcher shop intending to settle things there. He first asks about Max's whereabouts before eventually shooting Tank in the head after learning that Max is now in a nursing home.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, man.
After killing Tank, Frank returns to the hotel and finds Zoe gone. He asks the hotel staff for help tracking Zoe but has not yet found her. Frank then sets out to find Max, using a list of available nursing home addresses.
Look up all the nursing homes in the area.
On the way, he receives a phone call from Zoe, who turns out to be in a gang's hideout in a critical condition.
I'm scared. Sure.
Joey, tell me where you are.
Joey? Joey?
Frank immediately picks her up, and upon arrival, he finds Zoe weak with a syringe still stuck in her arm. Frank brings her back to the hotel and gives her aid. After she recovers, he takes Zoe to the cemetery to visit his wife's grave. There, Frank realizes a shocking truth. Right next to his wife's grave is a tombstone with the name Zoe. It turns out that the Zoe who has been with him all this time is merely a hallucination due to his severe mental condition. With great emotion, Frank promises Zoe that he will not continue his revenge. However, his resolve is not entirely gone. The next day, Frank returns to the hotel to pack his belongings, including all the money he has. He then visits Simone, gives her part of the money, and thanks her for their time together. In his hallucination, Frank sees Simone again as his late wife. Simone unknowingly mentions her child's name, Zoe, which once again triggers Frank's memory.
There's over $100,000 in there. I don't have anyone else to give it to.
Holy shit.
It's for you. Consider it a thank you for being kind to a stupid old man. Bye, Joey. Bye, Simone. Jennifer.
Sometime later, Frank manages to find the nursing home where Max is being cared for. Max turns out to have suffered a stroke and has not been visited by anyone for a long time, except someone 8 years ago, namely Quebec. At first, Frank intends to kill Max using a baseball bat, but after seeing Max's frail and helpless condition, He changes his mind and only places the bat beside Max's body before leaving.
How long has he been like this?
About 15 years. Oh, you didn't know? I'm sorry you had to find out this way.
19 years. I held up my hand and I kept my mouth shut, even though I thought you didn't. I'm sorry. I've been blaming you. While you've been here. Like this. Bye, Matt.
As he exits the nursing home, Frank is suddenly ambushed by Dragon with a hail of bullets. Fortunately, Frank manages to dodge and retaliate, killing Dragon.
You are gonna die today! If you went to die that day!
Elsewhere, Kay looks happy preparing for his daughter's wedding in a church. But the joy disappears when all the makeup staff and his daughter leave the church because Frank has arrived.
Hey, what's the matter? Baby, what's the matter?
Close the door.
With a pistol in hand, Frank expresses his anger toward Kay for lying about Max and killing Zoe. Under the threat of a gun, Kay admits that he killed Zoe because the kid wanted to report him to the police and was interfering with his illegal business.
Falls in coma. You take over. Keep people think you're still here.
Yes.
Well, how's murdering my son fit into that?
He was a junkie, Frank!
He came all strung out, demanding cash, drugs, threatening if he didn't get what he wanted, he was gonna go to the cops and rat us all out. All of us! For everything! So I had no choice. I did what I had to do to take care of the business.
You were supposed to look out for him.
You should have looked after him!
You were his father. I'm sorry, Frank. If I could go back, but I can't. So I just gotta try to live with it. Try to do better now.
Today's your day to try again.
Frank remembers his promise to Zoe and finally chooses to hold back his anger, then walks away from the church. But as Frank reaches the exit, the police have already surrounded him and shoot him.
Get down on the ground. Run! He's going to run!
In fact, Frank only wanted to take out Zoe's photo from his pocket to see his child's face one last time. The film ends with Zoe appearing beside Frank, smiling at him and saying that she is proud of him. The end. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.